he's my man, then he knows how to correct me. When, where, tone, all that.
When you say how to correct you, you're saying that your man has to correct you in a certain particular manner to be corrected?
I think anybody that is gonna be insightful enough to offer a correction should be tactful enough to deliver it in a way that it's not offensive. So, yes.
So your man has to not offend you while he's correcting you about something offensive that you did. Don't worry about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't make it up. She wanted to be corrected, but in a nice way about the disrespect she did. So she want her man to respect her while correcting her about her disrespect. So when she disrespects you, you gotta lower your tone when you correct her about disrespecting you. Girl, man.
You catch me in some bullshit, then I'm gonna give you that. But if you don't, you ain't finna do it. You gonna talk to me like you want to be talking.
So the fact that I'm correcting you, that means that you wouldn't know that it was bullshit. That's why I have to correct you.
I mean,
don't worry about it. I'm fired him up tonight. Hello, kryptonite, Superman, accountability, women. Same shit, kills them every time. Women hate to apologize or be wrong about shit.
That was hilarious. Okay, so at first glance, when you listen to the information, most people respond with, I don't know what in the hell she is talking about. She wants to disrespect you, and then she wants to regulate your response. No, right? But this is an often misconception when a woman is talking versus when a man is talking, because not just about our nature in itself, but society tends to basically communicate that when it's logic versus emotion, logic by definition is about making sense versus emotion, which tends to be less rational and not typically based in fact. When a woman is talking and she is the emotional being of the two versus a man talking, which is the logical being of the two, people tend to line themselves with the male speaking, typically because they believe that men's perspective is based in logic. So just off of that alone, you will assume what he's talking about is accurate and true without fact checking and using your own thinking faculties. So let's really get down to what's being said in this clip. She's saying that if you know me, you know how to correct me. With that being said, if a man and a woman is in a relationship, you know how your partner is most receptive to information. You should know them well enough to know their triggers. You should know them well enough to know the things that may cause a defense mechanism as well. And you should be able to deliver a clear and concise message to your partner without triggering those safeguards, if you will. And that's just assuming you know your partner well enough and care to do so, right? And so, of course, he's responding with saying, so when he feels disrespected, he should watch his tone and watch how he's speaking to you when he's correcting you about him being disrespected. And when you hear it like that, it sounds like you should not consider being disrespectful back. And the funny thing about that is that's true, because in most cases when you feel disrespected, doesn't mean you were disrespected. It means your emotions have been heightened. Something triggered you. Your emotions flared up because your mind and your emotions are conveying that something is uncomfortable to you. It doesn't necessarily mean you've been disrespected. So when a person feels disrespected, they tend to act out the fact that they have been disrespected. And this is a reaction, not a response, but a reaction. So with her saying that, yes, you should talk to me in the way that you want to be talked to, the miscommunication and where we misunderstand what it means to communicate is that because we feel something, we are able to rationalize that as a legitimate reason for bad behavior. So when you really put this in perspective, she's saying that even though you feel disrespected by me, you don't get to act like I've disrespected you when you address me, because that actually doesn't solve the problem. It actually escalates the problem. And then he's responding by saying, you're wrong. So what you're saying is, when you disrespect me, I shouldn't disrespect you back. And he's arguing for the alternative, which is, if you disrespect me, I should very well, in my response, be able to disrespect you. But in reality, that is not good communication. When you respond, or when you react, you are not thinking clearly. You're not thinking about the objective of the conversation. You're just thinking about getting them back. And when you feel disrespected, it doesn't mean that what came from the other individual was even intentional, to say the least. That's why you have to regulate yourself and learn how to communicate that you feel disrespected without handing out disrespect simultaneously. This is also a attribute that should be something that's well demonstrated within a leader, which is typically the male of the relationship. Because if you are the leader, you demonstrate how you expect the people that are under your leadership to behave. And if you have a tendency to feel disrespected, again, not meaning that you were actually disrespected, it just means that something occurred that made your emotions react. If you are accustomed to raging out or cussing people out or doing something negative as a reaction to feeling disrespected, you are naturally teaching the people under your leadership that this is an okay way to react when you feel disrespected. And then they will take on your behavior, which naturally will also be an escalation. See, when we're trying to communicate to another individual, we have to communicate to them on their level of understanding. This is still your goal, even if you feel disrespected. And unfortunately, because society at this day and age has adopted a tolerance for toxicity, we have abandoned the logical side of the equation, which is the point of having the conversation, which is resolution. And we think that because we feel disrespected, we can act in any shape, form, or fashion and say, well, you disrespected me first, so I disrespected you, and then tell them, you're not allowed to respond to that disrespect because I was just reacting to your initial disrespect. What actually occurred was that you escalated. So now they actually have the choice as to whether they're going to be the bigger person or they're going to escalate. But if they're following your leadership, they'll likely escalate, which means now the ball is in your court. And now you have to make the same decision again. Am I going to escalate again, or am I going to take the opportunity to be the bigger person and demonstrate how I want these conversations to go and how I want them to be constructive and beneficial, and a situation that ends in resolution instead of additional conflict. So it's kind of ironic that, again, we tend to listen to women speak, and because we say women are emotional, it automatically puts the woman at a disadvantage because it's not based in logic from what we understand when we hear the word emotion, when we hear the words emotional. So when a woman is speaking, we tend to kind of take it with a grain of salt because she couldn't possibly be making sense, because her reaction and how she understands the world is based in emotion. But we tend to have more of a receptive position when a man is talking because his center and his nature is based in logic. So we tend to question a man speaking less. But in this particular clip, you can see how quick disregarding what she said but listening to what he said would put you at a disadvantage, because what he's actually arguing for is the ability to disrespect somebody that he has perceived to be disrespectful, which doesn't actually resolve the issue, it escalates the issue. So if you want to get closer to a physical altercation, if you want to break up a relationship, if you want things to blow up in your face, take his advice. But if you want to actually have a chance at resolving the issue, you actually would take her advice, because just as far as communication alone, if you're trying to get another person to understand something, your course of action would be to speak to them at a level that they can be receptive to. And if that person gets triggered by disrespect, you feeling disrespected and reacting with more disrespect is only likely to escalate the situation. It doesn't cause the moment to dissipate at all. It doesn't bring you closer to resolution at all. It merely puts gasoline on the flames. So the second lady says, I can see if you caught me in something, then yeah, you may have a reason to do what you're doing. Like, for example, somebody, calling you the B word, or, cheating on you or something of that nature, then, there may be some type of leeway for an explosive reaction of emotion. But more often than not, as an adult, your responsibility is to learn how to communicate how you feel in a healthy fashion, not in a toxic fashion. Calling names, throwing things, cussing people out, making them feel small. Any of those type of reactions does nothing to get to the end resolution, which is what your agenda should be when you decide to address something or to check something or to draw a boundary with something. It shouldn't be, I want to argue. And when you react, it comes off like you want to fight, and only triggering the other person into fight or flight mode, which means that they have a choice. Either they're going to run or they're going to put their fists up. And if they put their fists up, now you're in full-blown escalation. Also, when it comes to leadership, demonstration is key. It's not a situation to where you get to deem yourself the leader and then not lead by demonstration. It's the same as parenting. If you have children, you'll learn quickly that your child does what you do, they don't do what you say, because leadership is not about telling people what to do. It's about your behavior, your discipline, your convictions, your character, your morals and values, and your consistency in those areas. And if you can live out your life consistently in those areas, those characteristics will translate over to your child in a lot of instances without saying a word. But if you talk to your children about morals and values, but you conduct yourself in a way that's resembling cheating and lies, you will likely see the cheating and lies reflected in your child. And then you'll wonder how they became so resistant and rebellious and defiant. And the reason is because your conflict is with your behavior versus your words. Your words and actions are not in alignment with each other. So you have to understand that when you teach someone how to treat you, the rules are the same. You can't teach someone how to treat you with bad behavior. You have to teach someone how to treat you by holding grace, by extending courtesy, by being patient, by being kind, by conveying the very characteristics that you would like to see demonstrated by the other person. And yes, sometimes holding that position does make you feel walked over. It does make you feel like a fool sometimes. It does make you feel like you're taking advantage sometimes. But it also teaches that you value the expectation that you're conveying to the people around you. If you convey an expectation to the people around you and yet you fail to uphold the same expectation yourself, people will view you as a hypocrite and decide they will handle you how they choose to handle you, because you have an expectation, yet that expectation is not something you take seriously in your own values. So they would not take it seriously either if you're trying to enforce that standard upon them. But if you are consistent and you hold your standards and your values firmly as a solid foundation to the point to where they can say you live this and breathe this, and this is your blood, sweat, and tears, then a person will understand that in order to be a part of your world, they have to also uphold the same standards. And if they value you as I know you would like them to, they will adopt your logic, they will adopt your standards and your morals to join you. But it's inconsistency that allows people to waver and convinces them to do what they want to do because they are up against a standard that is not being upheld, which means to the person that's observing your actions that you will accept any and anything in your world. So why would I hold myself to a standard? And if you accept yourself doing any and everything, then why would you be solid on a specific standard when it comes to other people? Obviously, you're flexible because you're flexible within your own standard for yourself. You see what I'm saying? So don't be so quick to throw what's being said to the side because the person talking is female versus male. Listen to the facts, use your mind and discernment, and allow your wheels to turn and actually determine what makes sense. Because it does not make sense to match fire for fire if you're trying to maintain a relationship or seek resolution. It actually makes more sense to be the person that introduces water to the flames as opposed to gasoline. Peace.